Okay, it looks like we have everyone reporting back, and we're a couple minutes late starting, but we will proceed with our public hearing, regularly scheduled for 6 o'clock tonight. Mr. Administrator, we have a couple of items for public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item requests the board to conduct the first and only public hearing to adopt a proposed ordinance changing the zoning classification from the Bradfordville Commercial Auto-Oriented District to the less intensive Bradfordville Commercial Services Zoning District for a 1.9 acre parcel on the southeast corner of Beech Ridge Trail and Beech Ridge Court near the Bannerman Crossing roundabout. This will allow for an enclosed kennel in close proximity to an existing veterinary clinic. Staff recommends the adoption of the ordinance, and we have no speakers on this item.
Second.
Staff recommendation has been moved by Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. I think we're moving on to agenda item number 27. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item requests the board conduct the second and final public hearing to adopt the Second Amendment to the Falls Chase Development Agreement.
All right. Staff recommendation moved by Commissioner Maddox yet again, but seconded by Commissioner Lindley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. I believe that concludes our two public hearings, correct?
That is correct.
At this time, for those of you keeping track at home and in the grandstands, we'll return to our regularly scheduled agenda items. I believe we're on agenda item number 25. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks your consideration to approve a short list of candidates as may be amended by the board to interview for the county attorney position. That's option one. Option two is to schedule a special meeting on October 29th for the purposes of conducting finalist interviews. And as a logistical matter, Commissioners, item or option three seeks your consideration to cancel the October 28th county attorney interview workshop, or I'm sorry, to cancel the regular meeting of October 29th for the purposes of conducting your interviews. Commissioners,
You said cancel the meeting. Does that also cancel the workshop? Because I believe you have a workshop on that day too as well.
Well, there was a previously scheduled workshop, yes, so it does both.
It cancels both. Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
And again, Commissioners, we will, of course, accept and reflect in the process any guidance that we may receive from the board today. But what is before you is the screening committees, which is Herb and myself, assisted greatly by Candace Wilson, our HR director, shortlist of the most qualified candidates based on the timeline and process approved by the board back in July. So based on that process, Commissioners, the item before you provides an outline of the steps in the selection process based on your approval of a shortlist today. Commissioners, of course, myself, the county attorney, and our HR director are all here and happy to answer any questions that you might have. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it back to you.
Commissioner Deloge, you're in queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, thanks for all the work you guys put in. It's a good list of candidates, and I know this is not an easy process to go through this. I'm fine with the slate of candidates. I would like to make one addition before we actually move this, if that's all right. Many of you have probably heard from or talked to Laura Yeomans, who was assistant county attorney with Herb for 6, 8, maybe 10 years. Herb, how long? 6 or 7, and then has gone on to FAC, who most of us have had some interactions with her at the FAC, and she's done the legislative and the legal work for them for a number of years, and I interact with her a fair amount. I'm pretty impressed, and she has asked to be considered, so I would like to take the list and amend it just to add her, change nothing else, and I'd make the motion that we move forward with this with the addition of Laura Yeomans as one more candidate.
All right. Commissioner Maddox, you're in queue.
I'm waiting for it. Does the motion get a second?
I don't know.
Did we get a second? Second?
You going to second it?
Yeah, I'll second the
Perfect,
motion.
thanks, okay.
Mr. Chair, I recuse myself. I have to recuse myself from the vote for the appearance of a conflict. Ms. Yeomans is a member of the Boys and Girls Club Board.
Smart move. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm struggling with this one a good bit. I have talked to Laura, and I think there is a good chance she would have gotten into the short list had she applied with the others before we closed the process. I will say that I think Laura represents a unique candidate because she is known to us. My understanding, I believe she came to us in 2005, so maybe some time, but her work with Florida Association of Counties has a different type of experience than we might see with some others, but we do, as you rightly said, Commissioner Deloge, have a good slate of candidates. So I am concerned about the process, and that would give me pause about adding one name at this point. The other side, and why I'm struggling with this, is that I have heard from several people that we kind of had the effect that we thought we might have, which was with a wonderful internal candidate, people assume we've made our decision and we're just kind of box checking. And there are people who may have decided not to apply and were encouraged later. That is a bigger issue to me than just Laura. If we had an effect on the candidate pool, I asked the county administrator in our briefing if 12 is a typical number, and I think, Mr. County Administrator, not to speak for you, but I believe what you said was it's low, but it could be in line with those counties that have a strong internal candidate. So it's not too out of step there. So the only reason why I'm willing to entertain this, and I really want to hear from the rest of you about this, is that normally I would be 100% in line with the process and want to have fidelity to that. I have wondered about opening up the application process again, but that sets our timeline back and everything else. There's other challenges with that. But in this case, if we did have an impact on the candidate pool, and we did make a decision after our first discussion about this to change our process in the future, I could see our way. There could be a way to allow other candidates to get in, but I'm not sure it can be limited. So I wouldn't mind hearing your thoughts about that, like I said. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Dozier, your thoughts on this are very closely aligned with mine. We have four very strong candidates, but I've spoken with Ms. Yeomans and have the same concerns that you do about process. I think we've got four very strong candidates. I think with I don't know Ms. Yeomans well. I've sat in the fact presentation that she's given recently, and I've spoken with her a couple times, but don't know her well. I think she'd be a great addition to the other four to interview. But it also comes down to fairness, as well as avoiding the perception that we're trying to sneak one person in. Sneak is not the right word because we're doing it in very, very much a public forum. But what I would be more amenable to is opening the application deadline and extending it for a week or 2 weeks. That way, if Ms. Yeomans or others around the community or throughout the country wanted to apply, they could. I think we've got four great candidates. We've got one great internal candidate. My sense is that maybe that it may have had some type of a chilling effect on the application process. I don't have a dog in this fight. My only objective here is to hire the best candidate that applies. I told our county administrator the other day during our briefing, I've been on the county commission for probably a year, so almost a year. This is probably the single most important agenda item that we can vote on, at least to date, since I've been here, because of the implications it has on our county government. My only objective is to make sure that we hire the best person to help run this county and serve as our county attorney. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do, and Commissioner Deloge, if you'd entertain this, is as a substitute motion to basically extend the application process, extend an application deadline for 1 week if you think that'd be sufficient, Mr. County Administrator and County Attorney.
Yeah, why don't I
2
get,
weeks if necessary.
Why don't I get those two guys to chime in if they have thoughts?
I'd like to address, at least
On
speak to
point.
that. Yeah, if I
On
could.
point.
So, listen, out of respect for process, knowing how hard it is for us to get all together at the same time and, cancel a meeting and schedule all these people, some of whom have obviously made arrangements. I mean, my feeling is for the people that applied, that's great. Laura clearly was a late candidate, but she's gone to Ginger at the Florida Association of Counties and said, this is something I'm interested in doing. All I'm looking for is get her in the mix and let her decide. So I'm a little nervous about opening it back up again because I think you might have the opposite effect, which is some of the people that are in the mix are going to say, well, wait a minute. I scheduled time, I've set aside this, and I'm ready to go. And I'm not asking for special treatment for Laura. I'm just saying add her to the mix, let her run the gauntlet like everybody else, and let the chips fall. Because I'm with you, Commissioner Minor. I think this is one of the biggest decisions we're going to make. And if the pool's one larger and we have a qualified candidate, she may not get to go the distance. And if that's the case, then that's what it works out. But I'm, to both of y'all's point, I'm respectful of the process to the point where I'm nervous about starting to reschedule for all the reasons I have seen of all of us getting together. I mean, moving the comp plan meeting an hour today created major problems for me when a couple of weeks ago the city just said, hey, how about an hour different? And those are the kinds of things, most of them have our lives kind of scheduled out and we've locked this down. So respectfully, I would not do that, but I'm just asking to add Laura if that makes sense.
Mr. Chairman, on point?
Sure, on point, and then we'll defer to the county attorney and administrator
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
advice.
Commissioner Lowe's, I hear you. I hear you. And my way of looking at this is I totally respect the process. I understand how this very well, even just 1 week extension or an additional week of application acceptance may push our October 29th meeting out. I know that might be a factor. There are very few agenda items to which I would think this would be warranted to make those changes, and this is one of them. And because my suggestion is to extend the application period out because of Ms. Yeoman's prior affiliation with Leon County. If it was someone else that I want to make sure that I don't think she's getting any special treatment. If she were to be added as a fifth candidate, I think everyone here she would be one of the five, and whichever one is the best one would be selected. But I think it's important for us to send a signal to the public that we're not trying to get one person in that might have former ties with Leon County. That's my perception on it. I hear what you're saying. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I think this is probably the most equitable, most fair way to allow Ms. Yeomans or any others out there to add their name to the list. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Administrator, Mr. Attorney, can you make any comments about the process itself?
You can do what Commissioner Deloge has made as a motion. I don't think this isn't like an RFP or a bid where you have sealed envelopes and that kind of thing. My thought on opening it up again is that there's no way we could get done what we did with all of the other candidates within that period of time. Assuming first, we'd have to re-advertise it in all of those media. That's like 2 or 3 weeks to get it in the newspaper. I mean, the Florida Bar News is probably the most looked at place for looking for jobs. That they won't be able to do that again until maybe November 1st. Then you'd have to give them a period of time to put in the applications. Then the search group, Vince and I would have to get together again. Then we'd have to determine if we got more than 2 or 3, then HR has helped us do the background checks and making sure that they say that they are who they are and reference checks and the like. It's a much longer process than October 29. I think you'll lose the October 29, and I don't know that you'll get it done before Thanksgiving. So now you're into the Christmas season and the holiday season, and getting people to come for interviews during the holidays is going to be very, very difficult. People have family commitments, in my mind, you're looking at a January interview time, and that's. I'm not planning on going anywhere until March 31st, but you're cutting it pretty close. So I would recommend, just from my perspective, in knowing what I know about how you go through the process, because I've hired a number of assistant county attorneys over the last 30 years. Sounds like a long time, but yeah. It takes a couple of months to get that done. And I think you will lose, you might lose applicants in the pool now, and you might also have a very, very difficult time getting anything done until your first meeting in January. So if you're even willing to consider the waiver of the process, then, Commissioner, I'm thinking that reopening is probably not a good idea.
Commissioners,
Mr.
yes,
Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, I would just echo everything that Herb said. Obviously, anything that Herb and I say on this item is intended just to, provide background for the board and just so that you have the information to make the decisions you make, whatever that decision is. But I would just underscore a couple of things. Some of you know that I've done these processes before with the Florida Association of Counties to fill vacancies for county administrators around the state. By extending, could you lose candidates on your existing list? Emphatically, yes. Again, so just something for you to know. And also, notwithstanding appearances, which are valid, is it out of the norm for you to add or subtract candidates from your list? Absolutely not. That is entirely within the purview of the county commission. I would suggest there's nothing at all wrong about you doing that. But I just wanted to get that out there so that's very clear for the record.
So I think what I heard Herb say is you're not going to volunteer and work for free March 29th, was it? Is that what I heard?
No, you didn't hear that.
Okay. On point, and then I do have Commissioner Lindley and Commissioner Dozier in queue. Go ahead.
Well, that's true, except how would you let prospective other applicants know unless you ran those ads? Maybe not all of them, but you'd be hard pressed to find a better job posting than the Florida Bar News. And I believe they have something like a 2-week window in advance. I mean, they used to publish it only on the 1st and the 15th, so I'm not really sure what their timeframes are anymore. But you'd have to at least let folks know. I don't know how else to let folks know.
Okay, Commissioner Lindley and then Commissioner Dozier.
I too have wrestled with this. I fear, to some extent, I think even the deadline was somewhat arbitrary. We were kind of counting backwards from your day of departure in the end of March and trying to arrange all the logistics. But, I think we're sending the wrong message by saying we set a deadline, we have candidates, we have good candidates, and now one more person who we all know and work with, or have worked with, I think. You haven't maybe, but I just feel like we're kind of violating our own integrity in a way to just open this up again. And so I think I would rather stick with the list we have. I also fear we would be sending a message to those people who have applied, who are in our short list and who are in the long list as well, that no, we're not happy with any of you and we want to seek more. And I don't think that's really the way we feel, because as everybody said, we have some good candidates. But I just feel like we're kind of violating our own principles in a way to just say, let's just keep this going a while. You know, the public notice notwithstanding. So that's my position. Let's stick with what we've got.
Just on point, I do want to share that one of the options listed during my briefing was that additional recommendations to the short list of candidates was an option under option one. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We talked about this months ago, but this is one of the most important decisions that we could make, and also one of the most challenging things we do in the sunshine. It's really hard to talk about really wonderful people and looking for other candidates for a job like this when we have a good group in the sunshine. I also took a vote to hire one of our two people in my first year. So it's not an easy thing in your first year either. Now, I am thrilled with our internal candidate who is sitting with us right now. Seriously, I am. Still, yes. He's grown on me, you know. But I've reflected on this before, and Mr. County Administrator, you know this well, that I would be thrilled with you sitting here either way, but I do think that a strong search process supports even the best internal candidates if they are ultimately selected, because you're judging them in the public against others. So that is my guiding principle on this. And I am convinced that for whatever reason, we had a chilling effect on the number of candidates that came in. It was surprising, and I've heard this from enough diverse voices, that there were people that assumed for many months now that we had made our decision, and that gives me pause, as I said before, because I don't think it's fair to whomever ultimately prevails to not have a good vetting process. And I think it can strengthen whomever gets that job, internal or external, once we ultimately make that decision, if the process is really good. Commissioner Deloge, I feel strongly about that part, but I also think if we do not open the applications at least a little bit, and I'm not sure where we are between the time frame, we have time. I understand your concern, Herb. Excuse me, look at that. I just got very informal because you're almost retired. See, you're going to go. And then we're all going to celebrate. And, you know, but Mr. County Attorney, I understand. I mean, pushing this off until December or January, that's a tight time frame to then select someone and go into negotiations, contract negotiations. On the other hand, we have time. Why rush this? And if we made any choice to reopen this, I would say, and I would assume it'd be full-throated from all of us, that the candidates we have are exceptional. And we want to hear from all of them without question. And yet we want additional people in the pool. It surprised me that we didn't have more assistant county, I mean, you've got a pretty great shop here. More assistant county attorneys from other places, things like that. It was surprising to me. So I'm going to have to stick, and I would make a substitute motion if to extend the process, but I guess I'm stuck here between Commissioner Minor's questions about doing it without advertising and the good comments about how do you get the word out without that. So the bare minimum of time, Mr. County Attorney, would be.
Yeah, is there a standard, some sort of a
Yeah.
state standard or governance or some sort of a statute required for advertisement period?
There is none.
Okay.
Are there electronic means that we could do it more quickly, understanding that the Florida Bar may be the gold standard, but since it has been advertised there, are there electronic means that would hit the same kind of candidate pool?
The other publications are going to require a fairly significant lag time in advance. I mean, that's how we got to October from your July meeting, is that we ran the ads, some of them twice, so in 2 different months. I would just post it on our website, which we did before, and the Florida Bar News. Those would be the only 2 things that I would do. The Florida Bar News, every lawyer in the state has access to that. And the job postings now are electronic. I think the turnaround time for us to get it there would be much quicker than with the old version, which was a printed newspaper. But you're still going to have to give at least 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. No, this would disrupt the October 29th
Yes.
day, and understanding that that is a challenge for those who are traveling. Still 2 weeks. These things are never easy. We have to do it in the sunshine. We have to talk about it when we have meetings. I'm sorry, did we only advertise for this job in Florida?
No.
No, okay. You're just saying going forward. We did advertise nationwide, though.
Yes.
And there are electronic postings that we could do for nationwide.
And the list is in the
Yes.
agenda, but
I
we
thought
did
so.
like the International Municipal Lawyers Association that published that nationwide, and in Canada, by the way.
So there are electronic job postings that would take something like this in a short turnaround, meaning not a month, but in the next couple weeks.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to make a substitute motion to extend the process for 2 weeks.
Commissioner Lindley?
Yeah, I would feel better about opening it up. I mean, basically, we're opening it wide open again. It sounds like, with notwithstanding our short list. And I would feel better. I mean, I was feeling like it just was impossible. I didn't want to just say, yeah, we have one more person, let that one person in. But if we can, we're just upsetting the apple cart, and we're going to kind of start over in a sense. If we're opening this up again, I mean, we don't even know if the people we have now will say, okay, I'm still in. We may lose some. So it's a bit of a risk, but
I think that is a strong possibility, that you'll lose some of your applicants, especially the short list.
we're saying in effect that I think Commissioner Dozier said we might have had a chilling effect if we had just, we had one in-house candidate mentioned. That, I think that is possible. I think that is quite possible. So we're saying now, no, we really want the broadest, widest search from all the people we can find. And if it takes us a little longer, it takes us a little longer. It will be more inconvenient, and I think it's kind of risky, but if that's the will of this board, I'm willing to go ahead with 2 weeks.
Okay, Mr. Administrator, and lively discussion
just
because I have.
One final thing from our standpoint. Herb has already said it, but again, just so the board's aware, I just needed to underscore the potential impact of heading into the holiday season. So just as long as you all know that.
Commissioner Deloge.
Chair, I mean, I have talked to a number of attorneys around the state who are pretty high profile that have pretty much said to me, I'm not going to apply because I'm not willing to out myself and run the risk that I don't get the job, which is a valid concern. Laura, I mean, I can understand if this was somebody nobody knew that we brought in from, that I just said, hey, I got a friend who I think I'd like to. She's stepped up, had conversations, I think, with most of us, and I know she's gone to the executive director and said, this is something I'm interested in. So she's outed herself. And again, in deference to Vince and to Herb, I mean, this is our decision, and if you want to get the best pool, they've got a great pool. It's one add-on. I think jockeying with the timeline, I think for all the reasons that were given, throws us into an abyss. And frankly, of the four that we have, I think you're going to find some fallout. And listen, it's our decision, I know in a county west of here, Vince went over and spent 3 or 4 days and gave them a list of 5 candidates. They threw them all out and picked somebody that they liked that wasn't even on the list, which is our prerogative. But in this environment, they have to have at least signaled that I'm willing to do that. I don't know, in my opinion, that giving a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 months or whatever is going to do anything that would want somebody to change. Nothing's changed. So I guess I'd come back and say this broadens the pool slightly and maybe strengthens the pool because it's somebody we have some experience with. So that would be my ask, which is, I think, to get to your earlier point, let's get the best pool and stick to the original schedule and let the cards fall where they may, because frankly, again, my goal was to get Laura in the mix, and then we do the interviews and we can all make a decision as adults about what we do and don't like and who rises to the top. And it's not going to be an easy process. But scheduling and timeline and holidays, I think we're backing ourselves into a corner. And then I'm aware of the idea that suddenly if I'm one of those other candidates, I'm feeling like, well, I've outed myself and there's an internal candidate. Wait a minute. Now you're changing the schedule. And I mean, I get that you're adding somebody who's going to ruffle some feathers, but I think changing the schedule throws it into a tailspin. So, my opinion.
Commissioner Minor?
Mr. Chairman, I hear what you're saying. I think we've all done throughout our careers some hirings for some pretty senior level positions, and the hardest thing is trying to make decisions with incomplete data. We don't know what these 4 candidates are going to think, regardless of what motion we make tonight. We don't know what each candidate is going to think. What we can do is we can communicate to them, whether it's Candace or even by adding to your substitute motion, the fact that we have no preconceptions among these 4 or 5th or opening up for 2 more weeks. There are no preconceptions about these 4. I want to interview every single one of these 4 candidates. If we add Ms. Yeomans, I want to interview her. And if any others that apply that make the short list, if we were to open up for a couple weeks, I want to interview them. I have no idea who I'm going to select. And I think I speak for everybody else too. I mean, I can't, but I would imagine all of you feel the same way. So to reiterate, I don't think we have any preconception of who we want to select as our next county attorney. And anyone that's applying, I hope, is watching this and getting that impression from all of us right now. That's as much as we can do to reassure them that by opening up the process again, that is not undermining whatsoever the merit or the likelihood of one of these 4 being selected. So with that, I don't know if you need to amend the substitute amendment to state that explicitly. I think we've probably already said it, each of us, in some form or fashion, but I support Commissioner Dozier's substitute amendment.
Commissioner Dozier, I'm going to go on point, which is unusual, but the more I look at the schedule and I think about this, it's probably incumbent on us to proceed with the 4 candidates. And if that falls out that they're not a selection, then we open the process. That's another option that might be considered. That's just thinking out loud. Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Maddox, thank you for joining us. Commissioner Dozier, then Commissioner Maddox.
I'm more than willing to wait if you want to.
Thank you. Just real quick, I wanted to check with the county attorney. There's been a substitute motion that does not exclusively speak to Ms. Yeomans, and so I wanted to make sure, I asked offline, but I want to make sure with the county attorney, at this point, am I able to vote on the substitute motion, or since I recused myself from the item altogether, do I continue to recuse myself? I just want to make sure whatever you tell me is on record. Because as I understand it, if I am able to vote, I have to vote.
Yes, that's a correct statement.
Unless you advise me as to there is a reason for me, either appearance or a reason for me, there's a definite conflict there for me not to vote, correct?
There's no conflict on the substitute motion because you're not selecting anybody.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's okay. My twisted face is, but if the substitute motion fails, then it goes back to the original motion.
Right.
And does that create a conflict to do that?
So
I think straight up the answer is you can vote on the substitute.
So let me give you my take on the substitute motion, since that's the one I can actually vote on. I'm exactly where this conversation started. We had a process in place in with that process, there were deadlines set. And with those deadlines set, there were people who applied. Of those people who applied, the county attorney and the county administrator brought us back names for our consideration. Were those names qualified and legit enough for them to send back? I don't think they would if it was not. So what are we saying by putting it back out? Are we saying that the people who applied, we either didn't have, you said it first, did we not have enough to apply? So just putting it back out give us the ability to have 10 to 15 more people apply that are qualified? Or are we saying, in essence, that we don't believe in the qualifications of the people who did apply? I don't think we're saying that we don't believe in the qualifications of the people who did apply. I think we all know that the people who are on the short list are very capable of doing the job that we asked them to do. So without going into a whole bunch of detail about where I stood on it all, I will tell you that I will vote against the substitute motion. I think we have the people that were recommended to us are good enough to do the job. And I think there was enough who applied that was adequate to the amount that we should have within our county. So I'll vote against the substitute motion. If we go back to the original motion, then I'll be back at the point where I recuse myself. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dozier, and then I'd like to make a final point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is exceptionally challenging issue here. Commissioner Deloge, with due respect to, I cannot get there for adding one name in because I think that does set us up for a major conflict in the future because should we hire or not hire? I mean, we're just out of our own process. So to me, we have to have an open and transparent process, even though we have the ability to make changes within that process. We just did this during our comp plan meeting earlier today, happened to vote against it, but we had different options for how to extend an RFP or completely redo the process. We chose to redo the process. If we're going to do that for an RFP for consulting services for our comp plan, I think hiring a county attorney requires a extended process should we want to add even a single name in. I'm going to go to what Commissioner Minor said. I can't think about this as adding a single name because I have no preconceived notions of the 4 people that are shortlisted here. There would be an even playing field coming into those interviews with whomever's in there, and so it is a real struggle for me to think, well, this person is so good, we got to put her into the mix. And we don't know what we don't know about other people and their choices. So, again, and I said this before, Mr. County Administrator, or Attorney, I don't know how much we could say about this, but my impression is, although we have a short list of 4 well-qualified, good candidates, we did not all 12 candidates were as qualified for this job. I mean, obviously there's always a short list, but I don't want to put you on the spot with this. I think there may be others who would consider it. Obviously we can't know that going into it. It's a danger, that's true.
If
you've got a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Just a very quick one, and
Yeah.
just in the spirit of maybe
Yeah.
trying to help answer a question I think that may have been in there. Had, even notwithstanding the deadline, had Herb and I thought that you didn't have candidates that were qualified and reputable enough for you all, and including the high standard that we viewed this through for you all to interview, we would not have recommended the names that we recommended for you at this point. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you. So with that said, we have 4 good candidates. We could go to an interview. I believe we'd probably hire someone out of that pool. I know firsthand, not from others who made these decisions beyond Laura, that there was a perception that we had already made our decision. So who knows what people will do, but we may get more than one application if we're open for a time. So I'm going to stand by the substitute motion, but I can't support the original unless there's any other guidance, Ms. County Administrator or Attorney, on how to handle the next steps. I think this just does disrupt the process if we move forward with it.
Okay. Commissioner Deloge, I promise I'm going to get to you.
Okay.
I just want to comment. I think it's super important that we stick with the dates and the candidates where they are now. I think that going back and rescheduling, just like they talked about, it sounds simple from up here, but rescheduling for candidates, rescheduling for interviewers, rescheduling for us is probably, there's not going to be a perfect rescheduling. I think it's important that we carry on with the candidates as provided, and if out of the interviews, with all respect to those that were the short list, that if we decide we need to open it back up again, then so be it. And Herb has made it clear that he's not going to volunteer after March 29th, so we will have to find space on our schedules to do such. Commissioner Deloge.
So I want to just walk through this. We've got one motion on top of the other. I mean, it looks like, based on the way I'm counting heads, it doesn't pass the extension piece, the substitute motion that's up right now, if I'm counting heads. We go back to the original motion, which basically says accept it as it was been proposed, and we move forward with the original plan, if I understood. Well, I'm guessing that fails too. I'm walking myself through this. I'm interested in getting Laura there, and I'm almost willing to say I'll roll on the extension as much as it grates me, because that wouldn't happen otherwise. You know, see what I'm saying? If we open it up, which is y'all's piece there, which I'm loath to do for all the reasons that the administrator's given us, we may lose some of the existing candidates. I feel pretty confident at that point, at least Laura, and whoever else wants to do this. And I just want to make sure somebody smarter than me is that a fair series of steps that we think would happen? Since we're in the sunshine and we can talk about this. And I feel pretty strongly to Rick's earlier, Commissioner Minor's earlier comment, let's get the best pool we can. I think we need a signal, although my only caveat would be as fast as humanly possible. And I think social media and the newspaper and emails out to everybody who possibly thought about it so that we don't get caught in this quandary. But I would be willing to support the substitute motion just to get us to the point where we add her, if that makes sense.
So Commissioner Maddox, I'm going to let you speak in just a second. So the original motion, I just want to be clear and re-clarify, I guess, and we will vote. A motion was made to accept a candidate, Laura Yeomans. It was seconded, but there was no vote taken. There was a substitute motion made and subsequently seconded to extend the advertising period 2 weeks. Is that what was mentioned? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Those are the two motions that we are at least considering. Commissioner Maddox.
Quick. So let's be clear. We just heard the county administrator and county attorney said that, you know, had they felt like we didn't have the right people there, they would have said we didn't have the right people there to do the job, and they would have put it back out. All right. So I think what we're saying here right now is that, and I want to believe this, is that what we're saying is that because there was a perception that there was an internal candidate that we believed in, that there were some people who held back their application to apply to us because they thought we were just going to go with the internal candidate. And so because of that, we're going to put it back out for 2 weeks. Let me tell you exactly where I am with that. If you didn't have the guts to apply for the job and you didn't believe in yourself enough, no matter who was the internal candidate, I can't extend the deadline because now you want to do it. That's just, I mean, look, I don't care who had the job. Did you care who sat in the seat when you applied? When you applied to run for office? You ran because you thought you were the best candidate, bar none. So now we're going to open this back up for people to come in because, you know, now it becomes a little clearer that just maybe there could be an opportunity for someone other than the candidate that's internal. I got to vote against that. Now, I'm be frank and honest. If the county attorney and the county administrator had come back and said, look, we vetted everybody, and we just don't think there's enough candidates there, we need to put it back out, I'm there all day. Let's put it back out. Let's get some more people. Same people apply plus some, great, okay? But that's not what they said. They said, Vince just said it, there's 4 there that we said that were legit enough to do this job. Was it 3? There's 4. There's 4 there that's legit enough to do this job, and we're recommending that you take them and make a choice out of them. So I can't support the substitute motion because I want somebody in that position who will put their qualifications against anybody, whether they're internal, external, whether they feel like they got the job, their favorites. I don't care if it was my daughter that was there. I would want somebody who would even go against my own blood because they thought they were better than her. That's what I want for my county attorney. So I can't support the motion on the floor.
Commissioner Lindley.
Is it possible to make a substitute to the substitute motion? No? Because what I would like to do is just go back to, I would just like to go back to the staff recommendation for option 1, which is not to add any additional, to extend the timeline, to go with the list that we now have. I think a lot of what you said is correct. I mean, people knew about this. They either put their hat in the ring or they don't. And we're probably not hiring a county attorney for the next 30 more years. This opportunity may come up again one of these days, but I think right now I'm feeling like we just stick with the list we have and don't go forward. So however we could get to that, I know you've got 2 motions now. I could put this substitute motion on. Okay, and that's what I would do, providing this one doesn't matter.
But they can make a substitute on top of that.
Then there would
I
be
can
her.
make a
Well, no,
I can make a substitute.
you can make another
before we vote
substitute
on it.
motion once we clear the decks.
So let me make sure that I'm clear here. You're making a substitute motion to go with option 1.
He wants to, if we get.
Either the existing substitute motion or the main motion has to be withdrawn. Otherwise, you need to vote on the substitute motion.
I can see the writing on the wall. I would withdraw my original.
Yes, I would too, and I would back her. Yeah.
Then your substitute, that now becomes the main motion on the
And
floor.
on the substitute,
And then you can make a substitute motion.
which is options 1, 2, and 3 as staff recommended, without any amendments.
And Commissioner Maddox, you can vote on
Commissioner
that.
Maddox can participate in that. Well, thanks for participating. All those in favor, yes? Yes, yes, yes. Which was options 1, 2, and 3 to continue to schedule the special meeting on October 29th and to cancel the regularly scheduled October 28th, correct? Correct. That's part of option 3, correct? Yeah. No board meeting, cancel the workshop. Great. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Commissioner Proctor, are you dialed in? All right, unanimously, it passes. I'm sorry,
I think it,
I'm sorry, 4-2. 3-2, 4-2.
I went with the original motion. No, my motion was, I withdrew my. I went with staff.
this passed 4-2.
Other items?
And for the clerk's office, the 2 negative votes were Commissioner Minor and Commissioner Dozier. I've worked my parliamentarian magic as much as I can.
I think we've reached the point in our meeting where it's time for commissioner comments. Any comments from the county attorney who has been especially busy today?
I dare not, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Administrator,
No, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing other than just to reiterate to the 4 candidates that are now on the short list that will be interviewed that the discussions that took place, just a few minutes ago had no bearing on their there are 4 candidates there. I think many of us, I think probably everyone here wants to interview every single one of those 4. Probably has no preconceptions about who to select. So if you're one of the 4 out there, stick in with us. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say ditto exactly to what Commissioner Minor said. I celebrate all the candidates who were in the process, willing to take a hard vote, maybe one that is misunderstood on this, just because I think we need to give it time. But I am happy with where we are, and I think we'll have a good day on the 29th. So that's good. The only other thing that I wanted to mention today, and I promise I won't bring this up at every single meeting, but the Industrial Hemp Summit, the 850 Hemp Summit that happened on October 2nd, a few of you attended. Thank you very much for coming. We had 270 people turn out and a wait list. We were hoping for 180, and we planned it in 9 weeks. So the impact on this is substantial for our area, for Leon, Tallahassee, but also for the region. And Mr. County Administrator, I was wondering, this is not necessarily time sensitive, but because OEV was so involved with the summit, actually we could not have done it without their early support. And I believe Director Paredes has worked with her staff to start doing some research on the economic impact of industrial hemp from R&D to manufacturing and others. Could we bring some kind of report into our next Blueprint OEV meeting just to let everyone know kind of what she's looking at, what the department's looking at, and what we're seeing region-wide in case we have future opportunities here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll add that to the agenda.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Chair, that's it. Thanks.
All right. Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing. Good meeting. Thank you, sir.
All right. Commissioner Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to salute Commissioner Dozier. The hemp summit was terrific. And, you know, you're going to be the hemp queen, one way or the other around here. Leadership in hemp. So that could be your next campaign, right? I had a wonderful time last week with the youth leadership, Tallahassee Youth Leadership Group. This was, I don't know how many kids there were, about 60, I think, high school students from around the county having their media and government day. And so I had a wonderful opportunity to not so much fill their heads with hopes and dreams of being up here one day, but I learned so much from them, and I feel really comfortable that we got some great leaders of tomorrow coming along. I just appreciate being a part of that whole experience with those young people. So to Tallahassee Youth Leadership Group, thank you for inviting me.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dozier.
Commissioner Maddox just asked a good question. Did we actually take a vote on the proclamation for John Lawrence earlier, or was that just part of the discussion?
No, I think we did. I think we took a vote. as
Yes,
part of
you got it? Okay.
several candidates.
We just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Trying to keep things straight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
2 quick things, Mr. Chair. First of all, I can tell you this is one of the most diverse boards I have ever worked on, and I appreciate the ability to agree to disagree on these things. And I feel like we walk out of here and nobody, keeps book or keeps score, and that's a rare thing in today's political world. So thank you for all that. Pardon? Yes, it works. And secondly, I was at the CRTPA meeting yesterday, and towards the end, I made a comment about the capital city to the sea trail. Is there a chance? First of all, we don't have a C, as somebody aptly pointed out, and it really doesn't really work for us. If you look at some of the trail systems around the country, they've got these kind of local names that kind of conjure up some kind of image of the area. Capital city to the sea, I'm not sure what that means. So anyway, I asked, and Greg Slay looked at me and said, we don't do marketing. And so I'm wondering if we could ask, without hiring anybody, without expending a lot of resources, if we could possibly ask the TDC, who's intimately involved in a lot of this, to at least come back with some suggestions or some ideas about rebranding that a little bit and remarketing that. Does that make sense?
Sure, I know, just for the record, I know we use the term interchangeably sometimes, but I think what you want to do is ask county tourism. to
Yes,
bring that back.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good meeting.
Thank you. In celebration of Minority Business Week, I'd like to do a proclamation. Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you. Very seldomly do I take a point of personal privilege, but today I am. Allison Jackson Rutherford is a elementary teacher here in Leon County Schools and was just voted the Teacher of the Year at her elementary school over at Gilchrist Elementary. Where did she get it? And I don't know where she got it from, Vince, actually. But I'm super proud of her accomplishments, and she's a third-year teacher, and that's kind of unheard of in the teaching profession. So way to go, Allie. That's all I have. No proclamation. I'll just invite you out for cookies. And you can come out. And she's already informed me that she's a better teacher than I, so took me 4 years. Took me 4 years to get it. Took her 3, so she's keeping track.
But now you aren't bragging about yourself, inducted into the Tallahassee Community College Hall of Fame last week. And I think we have another Hall of Fame member. Were you not one of the TCC leaders, grads made good a while back?
I was one of the 50 alumni, but no, Chairman takes that honor first.
Yeah, I got in
I can
because of
only
my
hope.
basketball skills. Anyone that wants to check on it in the parking lot, meet me in about 15 days, maybe.
It was a great event, attending lunch in honor of you and
Thank you.
others. Yeah.
The longest tables in 2 weeks on a Sunday, if you had, which is something great about.
Okay, thank you for sticking in there for the long haul.